what I noticed almost immediately was that all these women, mostly 60 plus, were looking for three things. They were looking for purpose, people, and play.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Today, we are welcoming Shelley Emling to the show. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, so nice to be here. Thank you.
Well, we were really looking forward to this conversation because one of the things we've been doing this podcast for 5 years, over 5 years. And one of the things we consistently hear from women is that it's hard to make friends and I feel invisible. And those two things seem to resonate in a lot of the conversations. And so we were excited when we were contacted about the Ethel, which is the new group for women 55 plus. And you're in charge of it. So could you tell us a little bit how it was created and why you felt the need for it?
Yeah, so it all started during the pandemic in 2020. We launched a free weekly e-newsletter called the Ethel for women, mostly 55, 60 plus. And it's named after Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, who founded AARP in 1958. And the newsletter was all about breaking stereotypes around aging and also helping women live their best lives as they grow older. So alongside the newsletter in 2020, I launched a public Facebook page for the Ethel. And then after about a year or two, I noticed that the women wanted a safer space where they could express themselves. So in about 2.5 years ago, we launched the Ethel Circle, which is a closed Facebook group for women 55, 60 and older. And the Ethel Circle as a closed Facebook group allows the women to put up their own posts. They're not just reacting to my posts, and there's no men allowed, and they can talk about anything they want to talk about. And they do. And from the beginning, they talked about everything from, I lost my best friend last year, so I have no friends left, to my husband thinks I look old and fat and I haven't had sex in 10 years, to just about everything. So that went on. And what I noticed almost immediately was that all these women, mostly 60 plus, were looking for three things. They were looking for purpose, people, and play. And many of them were retired. Many had lost their spouses or never been married. They were estranged from their kids. They had downsized to a new city and didn't know anybody. And they were starting to meet up organically within the Ethel Circle closed Facebook group. Somebody would raise their hand and say, I live in Cincinnati. Does anybody else live in Cincinnati? Can we meet for a coffee Saturday? And so it was just unbelievable. I said, wow, I'm hearing that women are lonely, especially after 60, and that they really want to meet other older women. And that's why about just over a year ago, we launched this Ethel Gathering Groups program, through which we set up closed Facebook groups in states and cities around the country. And we've done that in 47 states now, and also DC. And through those closed Ethel Gathering Group Facebook groups, women are actually organizing events and they're meeting up. And many are saying they're making their first new friend in decades. So it's been very rewarding.
Why do you think it's so hard for them I know for me how it's hard, but what have you found to be the hardest thing that women say when they hit this age to make friends?
I just think it's a combo of things. I think the pandemic hurt quite a bit. I'll just say that. But I also think that a lot of women have lost their spouses. A lot of women in their 60s and 70s, and they were really part of a couple, and they were friends with other couple friends. And then when their husband died, they didn't really know which way to turn. And also, I think it's a lot of women taking retirement in their 60s, early 70s, and they thought they'd still be meeting up with friends at work or something, and that just didn't quite happen that way. And I'm also surprised at the number of older women who are estranged from their grown children. This has really shocked me, that a lot of these women in their 60s, 70s, 80s do not really have a relationship with their grown kids. I have 3 kids in their 20s, and so I can't imagine, but that does happen. And so they just feel increasingly alone. And some have mobility issues, some have issues driving, all sorts of things. So it's sort of a combo. I've noticed it's just everything. But I have to say, I've been most surprised since launching this whole Ethel movement, how lonely a lot of women over the age of 60 really are. And if you recall, in 2023, the Surgeon General actually issued a statement saying that in the United States, social isolation and loneliness is a national epidemic. And it's really true. It really is.
Right. We've talked to several people, especially the one that stands out, Stan Butner, talking about community being so important in a healthy longevity.
It is. And also, I mean, the Surgeon General has said, and studies have shown that being socially isolated can actually cut 15 years off your life. And being lonely is like the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So it's a real issue. And I've seen it firsthand, day in and day out. Uh, you have no idea the stories I've heard from these women trying to make friends. Yeah.
How do you think the role of the COVID pandemic played into the isolation?
I think that that's hard to say, but I think some of the women took it as a chance to disengage because they were already a little bit disengaged, and they thought, okay, now we've got the pandemic as an excuse. I've heard this from my own friends saying, okay, Saturday night, I don't have to go out anymore. This is great. I can just be alone. And at the beginning, that was kind of fun. You didn't have to answer you could stay home on a Friday and Saturday night and not feel weird about it or guilty about it. Then after the pandemic went on for 2 years, I think towards the end of it, people were like, okay, I have forgotten how to really talk to people. I don't talk on the phone with anybody. We do Zoom calls every once in a while, but we're not really getting together anymore. And I think it took its toll over the course of the 2 years of the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the things that really interested me was, it's a 55 plus, 60 plus community. And when we started our podcast, we were both 52, and the main topic everyone wanted to talk about was menopause because it was hitting that kind of conversation explosion. Right. And now everybody's talking about menopause. But now that we're on the other side of it and we're both 57, I kind of want to talk about other things now. And I really I looked at exactly. And I looked at your website and I really like the fact that there's topics on everything from relationships to travel to, what you want to wear next. Like, it's very diverse.
Yes.
That was intentional, correct?
Yes. Many of our writers for the Ethel newsletter are in their 70s and 80s. Lots of them in their 80s, and they're trying to find their voice. They're trying to find purpose in their 80s. And what I love about these women is that we're trying to help them. I have one writer who I think she's 84, 85, and she did stand-up comedy for the first time in her 80s. And she said, I just wanted to have some fun for the first time in decades. And I love that about these women. I think women, as they reach, my age in their 50s, early 60s on up, you do start to feel invisible a little bit. And you're trying to figure out how to, get your mojo back, how to have some fun again. And I love that a lot of these women are stepping their toes back into the dating world. Some of them are trying online dating after losing their spouse and being widowed for many years. And we're all about trying to help women fulfill just to have fun again and really find your people. And it takes a lot to step outside your comfort zone. This is the other thing that I've learned. These Ethel gathering groups. So, groups are meeting up in 47 states. And I have one in my local area. About a year and a half ago, we relocated to the Catskills in New York State. And I didn't know anybody up here. So I joined my local Ethel group. And I've organized a few lunches, and you go to these lunches and you have to get out of your car in the parking lot and you have to walk into the restaurant. And it's kind of scary the first time because you're like, is anybody going to show up? How am I going to find these people? What's it going to be like? Are they going to like me? And so I hear from women every day saying, okay, that was stepping outside my comfort zone. That was a baby step, going into a restaurant or a diner and meeting somebody for lunch. And then they go from there, and then they start meeting up for a book club or to go on a hike. And it's just like we're trying to push them forward to just step outside their comfort zone.
Right. You're talking about that, stepping outside the comfort zone. Have you found that any women have tried something completely new? Like you're talking about the stand-up comedian. Is there just things where people are just like, I've never thought I'd do this?
Yeah, I would say the one big thing is that we also have an Ethel on the Go closed Facebook group for women over 60 it's all about travel. And a lot of these women, many of them widowed again or never married, and they have never traveled by themselves before. So I can't tell you, probably every day somebody contacts me and says, because of this group and the support of the people in this group, I am taking my first solo trip overseas. I've never been to Europe. I just booked a trip to London for the first time. I'm going by myself. And then hundreds of comments will come in and be like, good for you. Okay, this is what you should see when you go. This is fantastic. So I think that's what I hear the most, is that women are pushing themselves to actually take a trip by themselves. And it doesn't have to be overseas. It can be to, go to Savannah for the weekend. I mean, this is like, I've never done this before without my spouse or a partner. This is so new to me, and they're doing it. And that's what's so exciting.
And what I also like about the Ethel site is I love the rules. It's like no judgment, no this.
Yeah.
I think that's great because sometimes, sadly, you get in groups and it doesn't have to be particularly female. It could be male or female. And then the backbiting starts. And so I kind of like, how is that difficult to monitor?
Yeah, I would say I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. No, it's
Yeah.
been very, very difficult since November, since the election, because
Oh,
all of
sure,
our closed
true.
groups, there's no politics allowed, no self-promotional posts, and no meanness, no bullying. We have these rules for a reason. And since the election, it's been very difficult to keep politics out of these closed groups. But I say that there's other groups out there where they do talk about politics. So go find those groups, because I just can't allow any post to go up that's going to, the comments are going to turn divisive and mean. And I want this to be a nice space for older women to talk about other things besides politics.
Yes, I understand. Yes.
You're
It's
also
not been easy.
no, it's we have a private Facebook group of our own, and it's true. You have to constantly monitor because even in the comments section, you have to know that
Yes.
what they're saying.
Right.
Was it a natural progression from the girlfriend newsletter, which is more of like a 40
Yeah,
plus
that's what we
platform?
started first at AARP. The first thing that we launched was the Girlfriend, another weekly free newsletter for women in their 40s and 50s, and that launched in 2017. And that was a way to subtly introduce younger women, to AARP and what AARP has to offer. And then we launched a public Girlfriend Facebook page alongside that in 2017. And then in 2019, I believe it was, then I launched the Girlfriend Book Club, which is a closed Facebook group just for women who love to read. And that's been a fantastically safe, wonderful space where nobody gets political. It's all about books. And we pick a book every single month. And then I bring on the author. And we've had everybody from Kristen Hanna to James Patterson to Leanne Moriarty to Barbara Kingsolver, Ann Patchett. Everybody's been on with me every month doing live interviews. And then we give away a lot of books. Publishers come to us and say, hey, can we give away 50 copies of this book that's coming out, in a few weeks? Then we do that. And that's been really fun. And it has over 105,000 women in it currently in the Girlfriend Book Club. And so when that launched, yes, we did realize that there was a need to address the older women out there. They were saying, hey, I'm 75. What do you have for me? I can't belong to the girlfriend community. What do you have going on for me? And so we decided to launch the Ethel newsletter in 2020. And that's what started this whole thing with the Ethel Circle and all the close Facebook groups around the country.
And you said you're in 47 states. Is that right?
Yes, the Ethel gathering groups are in 47 states. If you go to aarp.org/Ethels, you can find out if there's a group in your area. And like I said, I think we still need a group in Alaska, I want to say Montana and North Dakota, but I think that's about it.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
If there's not a group in your area, we can help you set up, a closed Facebook group for your area, so you could start meeting up in person. And it's been interesting because talking about loneliness, what I have found through the main closed Facebook group, the Ethel Circle, is that I heard from so many women that they're lonely on the weekends, especially. They're really lonely on Saturday nights, it seems. And so we launched a chat room within the Ethel Circle just for Saturday nights, that if you're online you can just dip in and out, like from 6 to 10 p.m. And you can go in there in the chat room and just say, hey, I'm watching this great movie. Has anybody seen this or whatever? And it was just interesting to me how many women were willing to tell me and tell everybody, I'm really lonely on Friday and Saturday night are my downtimes. That's really when I am suffering. During the day, I can kind of keep busy, but at night, I need something. I need people to check in on me, or I need to check in on somebody. I need some connection on a weekend night. And And I find that a lot of women feel that way. So we're trying to address that.
Right.
Do you find a lot of the women who were in the workforce for many, many years and then retired feel the need to do like mentoring
Yes.
in the circle?
Yeah, so we're trying to do that. We're trying to, if somebody's very savvy, for example, with Canva or some of the social media tools that are out there, we're trying to pair them up with some other women that don't really know anything about social media and how to use it, to try to make sure that we can find mentors for these women, because that gives people purpose, women purpose, which they feel like they've lost after retiring in some cases, not every case, but in some cases. And as I said earlier, I mean, what the common denominator is among all these women, in my mind, is that they're all seeking one of these things: purpose, people, or play. And in some cases, all three. And so we're trying to do everything we can to help them find people, purpose, and play. And there's many women also that live in rural areas that are tough to reach. And if they've lost their spouse in particular, they're living in a rural area they don't have an Ethel group in their area, in their town or city. And so we're trying to find a way to do virtual happy hours or virtual, Zoom calls or something where we can engage those women, because I do feel badly that there are women out there that are really isolated in these towns, which might not have a local anything, a senior center. I mean, anything for them in their region.
Right. And so when I know AARP is so good about when you hit 50, you get that thing in the mail. Does that go? I mean, and you know what? It is a great resource. It is. I mean,
So most people, I have to admit, throw that card away as soon
I
as they.
know I didn't. I didn't throw it away.
I like the discounts. I wasn't going to throw away.
And I like the newsletters. And it really has stuff in it that is very helpful. I mean, just everything from insurance to looking out for scams to everything. So everybody with AARP, when they turn 50, how do they find, oh, you're turning 50 and send this in the mail? How does that?
I honestly don't know.
You don't know? I'm like, how would they know? About me. But I always find that.
But that's you don't have to be 50 to join AARP, and that's a myth. I mean, you could be 21 and join AARP. You do not have to be 50. They do start targeting you at 50 because that's when they lobby Congress. They're lobbying for the rights of people 50 plus. And so, but you can be 21 and join AARP and get the discounts, the hotel, travel, flight, all those discounts and everything.
So that was my question: is how can women find out about the Ethel gathering groups?
So if they just go to aarp.org/Ethels, then you'll see everything about the gathering groups. There's a drop-down menu you can put in your state, and you can find a group if there's a group in your area. And there's groups now everywhere. So,
yeah.
And even Facebook told us that they had never seen anybody use Facebook in this way, because we started out completely digital. I mean, online 100%. And the women wanted to meet each other in person. So it's not like AARP said, okay, we want to start some sort of initiative to bring you together in person. The women said, we're doing this ourselves. And we just kind of followed them and caught up with them, because they told us, we want to meet in person. And we said, okay, all right, then I had no idea. Let's start creating groups in cities around the country through which women can meet up. So we're following their lead.
Right.
So it's been a learning process. And, there's been some great stories about, there was a woman in Atlanta who posted, I don't know, several months ago, who said, I'm turning 70. I'm celebrating my birthday alone yet again. And she said, it just makes me so sad that I'm this age. And like she lost friends. They had died and different things had happened. And she said, I just feel so sad. I'm sitting here on my 70th birthday. And immediately she has over 900 comments come in, and people were saying, where are you in Atlanta? I will stop by, DM me. I will stop by with a cupcake, a card, or something. And then the next day she posted and said, I'm sitting here with tears streaming down my face because nobody has ever celebrated my birthday like this before. So it's these little connections every day that are so key to women as they age. And it's amazing to watch, actually.
It's definitely magical, I think, when you have a community and a connection, and we say that a lot. Why do you think, because we've talked to platforms where the engagement simply is not there. Why do you think women of our demographic crave that engagement so much?
Well, I'd say, are those platforms Facebook? Because the closed Facebook platform it works because I have to approve every single person that joins a closed Facebook group. So that means I'm not letting in men, for example. No men are allowed in these groups.
Right.
I'm making sure that people have an actual profile. They have a face. They have a, they didn't just join Facebook yesterday and have one friend. I mean, that's a tell. That's something's off there. So,
Right.
I have to admit everybody in there so the women do know it's a safe space for them. And I just think also AARP is a trusted brand. And so they think, okay, this is coming from something I know that was founded in 1958. And, I'll trust it. And so that's why, and also women in the Ethel circle, they can post anonymously, but I have to approve those posts. And so a lot of people say, why do you allow anonymous posts? And aren't they from just spammers or bots or something? And I'm like, no, when they request an anonymous post, I look to make sure it's tied to an actual profile. A woman is actually writing this, and there's many reasons for doing that, and I get it, because women are writing very, very personal things. My husband just cheated on me and we've been married 30 years. Here's what's going on. What should I do? Or, I haven't spoken to my sister in 40 years. I get it. I understand why people want to post anonymously occasionally. So we do allow that as well.
And that is a lot of work.
I was going to say, how are you ever off your phone? Because
never.
Yeah. I mean, just doing our Facebook group
is like, but I hope you have support with that, because a lot of people sometimes cross a line and try to give like medical advice or
they do, and that's not allowed either. Yeah.
Right.
You can ask somebody, hey, I'm going through something. I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Has anybody else been diagnosed with breast cancer? It's okay to share like your experiences with it, but we can't allow somebody to say, here's the drug you should be taking. That is not allowed. So yes, I do have some support that help me admin these groups, because it's a lot, as you guys know, just from doing your own.
Yes. Right. No, it's true.
Yeah.
And you get a weekly newsletter as well, correct? Yep. For the Ethel.
For the girlfriend and the Ethel, yeah, both have weekly free newsletters, yeah.
Which just are chock full of resources as well. Like there's so many good blogs and articles. How do you choose which ones go into the newsletters?
I think the ones that work the best are the specific headline ones and the very, very personal essays. So what works best, and maybe you guys find this in your work, I don't know, what works best is not 25 things to do this week to get more energy. It's here's the one thing I did this week that boosted my energy this weekend, or the 3 things I did this week to have the best sex of my life this weekend. I mean, it's those kinds of stories that really pinpoint like 1 or 2 things you can do in your life to make a change. And then it's the very, very personal pieces also about, I was ghosted by my best friend. What happened? Those kinds of pieces, but also celebratory. I don't want to make it seem like everything's dismal and dreary, because it's also like, here's what I did last week to step outside my comfort zone. Maybe you could do the same thing. So I'm pretty picky about what we put into the newsletter, and the writers I think I've got a nice stable now for both the girlfriend and Ethel that are very, very good and very strong, and they know what kind of pieces we're looking for. I mean, we also do some service pieces, 10 ways to do grown-up eyeshadow right, or something like that, or 10 films every over 60 woman should be watching right now, or TV shows you should be streaming. So it's a combo of the service pieces and the first person essays, but I do love the very deeply personal first person essays. They really resonate.
If someone is listening to this and saying, oh, wow, I'm really interested, and they look it up and there's not a local one near them, maybe it's 3 hours away, what can they do to start one or to get in touch with you to talk about it?
If you search on the Ethel on Google, you will find everything that you need. You'll find the email address. You'll find like the links to the Ethel gathering groups. You'll find everything. So yeah, AARP Ethel at AARP.org is the email address. AARP Ethel at AARP.org.
Oh, and he's sharing it. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Henry. AARP Ethel at AARP.org. If you email that email address, somebody from the group will get back to you and say, okay, there's not a group in your area. We see that. We will help you set up a group in your area. Yeah. Oh, that's all you have to do. And I promise somebody will get back to you within 24 hours for sure.
And Colleen, that was along the lines of what I was going to ask.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So I guess my last question is, where next? Like, what are you hoping is the growth going to look like for the Ethel?
The growth is oh gosh, it's just been so amazing already. But we also have just launched an Ethel store because the women identify as Ethels because Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews, who founded AARP, was such a special woman and fought for the rights of women over and everybody over 60, 50, 60. And so we have an Ethel store where you can buy Ethel t-shirts and visors and water bottles and tote bags and pins and everything. And so so that just launched last week. And so we're helping people. So when you walk into a restaurant and you're trying to find your Ethel group, maybe somebody has like a lapel pin that says Ethel or a t-shirt, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the Ethel group. Okay, I can find them. But I think in the future, we're going to try to figure out, we want to get to all 50 states. Like I said, we're at 47. We want to get to 50. And we have been asked many, many times, what are we doing for men? I will say. And me not being a man, but being married to a man, I'm not sure how the closed Facebook group would work for men, and if they would react the same way like the women in the Ethel Circle did and start meeting up in person. I don't know, but we're actually thinking about that because we do want to do something for the men, because I mean, men are lonely too as they age. It's not just women. And the other thing we're doing is we're launching, so the younger women in their 40s, early 50s look at the Ethel Circle, which maybe their mother belongs to, and they're meeting up and going on hikes and going to plays and having fun. And they're saying, hey, what about us? So around May 15th, we're launching the Girlfriend Social Club, which will be a new closed Facebook group for women in their 40s and 50s, similar to the Ethel Circle, where they can talk about anything. And I'm going to lean into the lighthearted because I think that everything is so heavy right now that a lot of people have told me, thank you for not including politics in all these groups. We want like an escape for an hour a day so we can come onto the Ethel Circle Facebook page and think about something other than politics. And we're going to do that with the Girlfriend and have a Girlfriend Social Club closed Facebook group, in addition to the book club, so that women have a place to join together and also try to meet up in person and talk about things that are relevant to their lives in their 40s and 50s.
Uh-huh. Well, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if we're 57 and we're kind of in both groups? What do we do?
I look at it more or less about age and more about life stage, because there are a lot of women in their 50s late 50s that have retired already. There's a lot of women in their 80s that are still working. There's a lot of women in their 40s that are, I don't know, maybe caring for elderly parents. Everybody's in different stages. So I actually look at it like the Girlfriend kind of covers some stages, and then the Ethel is more different stages, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does.
But you could be in your 50s and be in the Ethels because you've retired. Maybe you've lost your spouse. Maybe I don't know what the situation is, but you could feel more of an Ethel connection than a Girlfriend connection with, even if you're in your 40s or 50s,
And can you do both groups?
You could, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So there are no rules. Okay, good.
We don't welcome men, though. I'm sorry, men.
That's
the only thing. There's no men allowed because women want to feel like, I just want to talk with girlfriends. I want to just talk to friends about what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
And men are allowed. Yeah.
I think I was reading one of the articles where some women brought their spouse on a cruise.
Yeah.
And then some group of women went without their spouse, and the women were looking at the women with the men were looking at the women at the table, and they were just laughing and having a good old time. And the women with their husbands were kind of quiet and were like, I wish I was over there.
Yeah, I know. It's true. I mean, these women really, stick up for each other, and they support one another. There was a woman who was going to Chicago a couple weeks ago with her best friend for her first girls' weekend in like decades. And her best friend backed out at the last second. And she said, oh my gosh, I've got this plane ticket from New York to Chicago. What should I do? She posted in the Ethel groups, the Ethel Circle and the Ethel on the Go, and said, I'm coming to Chicago. What should I see? And all these women said, hey, we're in Chicago. We'll meet you. Let's go to dinner. We'll take you around. And she had the best weekend ever. And she met all these older women Ethels, in Chicago, and they didn't know each other. So a lot of the women say I'm too old to make new friends. And that's just not true. You can make an old friend, a new friend, whether you're, 12, 40, 80, 90, whatever. And I really believe that. I think that's what my overriding goal is, to show women you can make new connections. You can make friends no matter what age you are.
Right. Love that. It's so true. It's getting a little bit out of your comfort zone, just a tiny step.
Right. You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. And it can make a world.
It's great. You won't regret it. I swear. Yeah,
Well, we will make sure to have the links for the Ethel and the girlfriend
I will send them. Yes.
in our show notes. Shelley, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us
guys.
today.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for all you're doing, because we, like I said in the very beginning, we hear from so many women who felt isolated and invisible, and you are doing such good work in changing that narrative. So thank you.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It's been really fun. Thank you.